Chapter 2 The Ruse. "Are you okay, son?" the voice of a tender old man beside him asked. Leon slowly began to open his eyes to what felt like deja vu. "What happened?" Leon asked with a puzzled expression on his dusty face. "Well, where to begin?" The old man pondered for a bit. He had a solemn expression on his face while trying to decide where to start. Finally, he continued. "Well, you see, you've been captured by a pair of hunters." Leon slowly sat up, dusting everything off that he could while sitting in what looked like a mixture of dirt and ashes. Afterward, he rubbed the back of his head, which was still sore from getting hit. "A pair of what?" "Hunters," the old man said again. "They are a group of people who collect weaker targets and bring them back here. New arrivals, such as yourself, by the look of your clothes, being the easiest prey. You see, no one really wears the type of clothes like that here without some sort of insignia on them. Similar, yes, but it's not like they're wearing design brands or anything that spectacular. Usually, someone will wear clothing to associate them with which domain they are a part of. So freshies or fresh arrivals are easy to spot and easy targets," the old man finished. Leon thought to himself that Vance and Krista had normal clothes on, but it seemed pretty likely that was just a ruse to blend in and avoid being asked questions by their prey. They were hunters, after all, at least according to the man he was now sharing a cage with. He looked around and noticed that the cage was in the middle of some camp with a few people besides the old man. The bars were up and down and across, like that of a checkerboard fencing. They looked like they were made out of the same sort of material that he walked through earlier. Impervious rock, was it? He thought to himself as he moved his hand around through the ash and dirt before finding a small pebble. He tossed it, hitting the bar, and the results were the same as before in the tunnel. It bounced off and dissolved, breaking apart. "What are they gonna do with us?" he asked, unsure of much of anything in this world. The old man looked at him drearily. "Well, it all depends on who is paying for you and what you have to offer. You see, to gain power in this world, you must first begin to conquer what killed you. Everyone is immortal to the point that they won't age. You must, of course, still consume energy from a food source, such as, say, a vampire must still consume blood. That's just the basics of how your body works in this world. You can, however, be killed by unnatural causes, and your soul will be reincarnated here once again, but you will retain everything. If you die to someone else, however, and they wish to take your conquest, they can do so by replacing their own, as it is their right for conquering you. Of course, if this happens, you don't just die. Your soul is essentially absorbed by the one who conquers you. The same is true if they wish to use your soul to feed their own conquests, which then helps increase its strength without time or training." "What are you talking about?" "It's hard to digest, I know, especially if you just come to this world. It can be a lot to take in. How long you been here?" Well, at this point, Leon couldn't really tell if it was night or dusk. He didn't really know how the day and night system worked in this world, if there even was one. "No more than a day, I figure." "I see. Well, I'm sorry you're in this position. At least in my experience, it doesn't get much better for us any way you cut it. There are also a lot worse places than this that you could have ended up." "What do you mean?" "Well, you see." The old man was cut off talking as a section of the bars turned into a golden material that Leon had walked through before. Two men entered, both wearing uniform-type clothing with the symbol of an almost prestigious snow leopard standing above a volcano. One of those men was Vance. "Your time's up, Jatha,"
Someone paid a half the amount for your conquest. Which one is Strata again?
The unknown man asked. That one, Vance said, pointing to the old man Leon had been speaking with. Again he had a saddened look upon his face, one of almost complete defeat. The other man proceeded and grabbed Tritho. At first, Tritho began to struggle, and then he stopped, knowing that he couldn't break free of the grasp of the guard. He felt that it would be pointless for him even if he did. There was no escape to be found. The second guard handed him off to Vance, who proceeded to lead Tritho outside. Vance, what's going on? What are you doing? Leon asked, almost desperately. The other guard turned around and just laughed at him. With a cruel expression on his face, he was just scoffing. Leon tried to follow, but was easily launched back by the immeasurable strength of the other guard.
Listen, your fate was sealed from the time you came into this world. I can't kill you, but if you're not gonna behave, well...
He licked his lips and smiled. Only the man's green rotting teeth could be seen through his helmet, but radiated with such pleasure.
I don't think they would miss a few pieces of you here and there.
That's enough, Enzo. Let's go, Vance said sternly after noticing the other guard's demeanor and slow pace. The second man finally left, and the bars turned back to their aquatic state. He smiled back at Leon, and with his right hand made a scissor motion, cutting off a finger on his left hand down to the knuckle before moving forward. Vance, along with Tritho and the second guard, approached another man that had just come through the front gate and into the kingdom's inner territory. This new person wasn't wearing the same type of uniform as Vance and the second man. He had a somewhat similar uniform, but the symbol on it was a skeleton hand holding up a skull with a rose blooming from the top. This is what you paid for, an Epsilon 3 user. Would you like to have him transported, or... Vance was interrupted.
I thought we agreed to a Sigma 5. What is this?
The man said with slight disgust. After a moment's pause, he must have decided it would work fine.
Very well. It will have to do. You need to at least prove the conquest is the same as promised.
Vance stepped over and pulled out what looked like a small knife made out of solid gold. He quickly plunged it straight into his own left leg and then pulled it out. The blade is good, yes? He asked while his blood dripped from the blade. The man, looking in a bit of shock, just nodded. Vance then lifted the blade up and fiercely lunged towards Tritho's head with it. However, the blade broke in half as it failed to penetrate.
Excellent. Yes, this will work out just fine. It's a shame that such a conquest was wasted on someone such as yourself,
he said with an evil smirk directed at Tritho. Tritho just stood there in silence and said nothing.
Is it okay if I collect here? I'm just so excited to get my hands on this conquest. I'll pay you a disposal fee if that's a problem. Go ahead. That won't be necessary.
The man pulled out a standard-looking Glock and started moving towards Tritho. Don't worry, kid, Tritho yelled back at Leon.
You may get lucky and end up with a useful conquest or a mediocre one and only be bought for slavery instead of...
As Tritho had been talking to Leon, the mysterious man at the same time walked up to him, put the gun in Tritho's mouth, and pulled the trigger. The bullet seemed to do what it was intended to do. The poor old man's brains fell from his mouth and seeped from his eyes. But the bullet didn't penetrate the skin. Leon was left gagging in the cage. This time, he was unable to hold it back, threw up. What happened next seemed strange to him. The man who shot Tritho yelled out,
I accept this conquest!
The symbol of what seemed to be a Psi 4 dissipated from his right forearm, and a translucent light from Tritho's arm shot up to the other man's forearm. In an instant burning manner, the Epsilon 3 that had been on Tritho's arm had been seared onto the other man.
This is astounding!
You sick fuck! Why in the hell did you do that to him?
Didn't you notice? I had to kill him. No, I warn you to get him,
the buyer said with an almost euphoric look.
And you know why?
He pulled the gun out from before and shot himself in the head. The bullet bounced off with great mobility and rolled over towards the cage. It looked as though it had been crushed, as if having hit a bulletproof vest. Only the man felt no recourse from doing so.
Isn't it marvelous? Someone will be doing the same to you soon, but don't worry, it shouldn't hurt too much. You have witnessed just how fast it can be. I'll be on my way, gentlemen. It was a pleasure doing business with you. I'll be sure to let others know about your customer satisfaction,
he said with a sickening tone and continued to laugh as he took his leave through the gate. Trito's body laid there untouched until after the man left, and then a few guards carried it off somewhere. Is this what's going to happen to me? Leon thought to himself as he began wondering just why he was brought to such a strange place. And for what purpose? About an hour later, a couple of men brought some food to the prisoners. They each got their own helping of some mucky stew, bread, and water. Leon, not having eaten for what seemed like an eternity, didn't question it and ate every last drop. Tired, he slowly drifted off to the comfort of his sleep.